So we'll move on to our speaker today, Ned Barrett, who native of Huntington, West Virginia, but moved to South Carolina. And I have to say that I'm probably not the best person to introduce you. I will say that you are committed to creating an active, healthy lifestyle around Spartanburg, and you are the manager of the Trails program for PAL. And before I let you speak, Franca, is there anything else? I'll put you on the spot. Is there anything else you wanted to share about Ned before he gets into his?
No, the only thing I can share is that Ned makes the trail stewardship very fun to do it, even if it's sometimes it takes a lot of energy and strong hands to do it. But it's a beautiful fellowship at the same time, and we are out in the open, enjoy the beautiful trees that we have in the woods, and whatever it will come out on those trails. It's just a great experience altogether. So I just love to be part of that when I can, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I know you have a big project for the county all the way to the North Carolina border, I believe, but I don't want to steal the thunder.
That one too. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going
Well, that's
on.
a wonderful segue. So Ned, take it away.
You bet. I will share my screen, but I feel obligated to say first that those are not my guitars. Those belong to my wife. I'm not nearly that cool. She is, however. And I guess the Rotary Exchange student thing. I mean, yeah, 42 years later, this is what you get when you're a Rotary Exchange student. So I was in Belgium, Liège, Belgium. There were, I mean, it was a kind of in-town Rotary Club that I belonged to, and so sort of everybody as usual. And one of the things Candace asked me to say, that one of my favorite parts of it was that every week on Sunday, I would go with a different Rotarian family and do something. It generally involved having Sunday dinner, of course, and it was a variety of activities. I went to see a field hockey game. I went to where the Battle of the Bulge was in the Ardennes. We did some hanging out. We would go visit towns. I mean, it was kind of just whatever was going on with those folks that day and what they wanted to show me. And so talk about discovery of the world. That at age 18 for me was eye-opening and an amazing experience. I'm still in touch with the families that I stayed with. We haven't seen each other, but we do. I mean, that's one of the joys of Facebook, I'll say. We are also in touch with a woman who was an exchange student and stayed with my family. She was Dutch. Stayed with my family the same year that I was gone. And so we're that 42 years later, that exchange student is also a contributing member of society. She lives in Colorado Springs, so she liked her stay enough to stay. But let me go ahead and share my screen. This seems like a good sized group to really make this a, hold on, I should pay attention. There we go. Looks like we're going to be a little bit cut off on the sides, but that's all right. I will, again, a small enough group that feel free to interrupt and ask questions. I'm happy to do that. I was a high school English teacher for 18 years. I'm used to being interrupted. We want to talk a little bit about PAL. We are in our 20th year. This is our 20th anniversary. We are PAL, Play, Advocate, Live Well. We were started in 2003 as under an entirely different name called Heartwise. Some of the funders and sort of kind of the upper echelons of Spartanburg County, and by that I mean city, county, The Mary Black Foundation, if you're familiar with the Mary Black Foundation here in Spartanburg, they are a community foundation funded from the sale of a hospital. And they have taken on active living and early childhood development as their two areas. And so we are certainly the recipient of that, or the benefactor of that. But the various, the hospital, the county foundation, kind of some of the higher administrators and the various businesses around got together, funded a study to find out what the health issues were in Spartanburg County. What are the biggest, what are the issues we're facing? What are we looking at here? There were a lot of very interesting findings, including that 10% of the people in Spartanburg County, at least at the time, had no teeth. And that means no teeth. Very interesting. It did start one of the elements of their efforts there was to get dental care improved in the county. But there was a preponderance of chronic diseases associated with inactivity and poor eating. And so they decided that they should start a nonprofit. They called it Heartwise, to focus on encouraging healthy eating and active living. Well, a little bit after that, around 2003, the organization split into two. One of them is now the Hub City Farmers Market. At the time, it was the Spartanburg Nutrition Council, to focus on nutrition and healthy eating. And another organization that became known as Partners for Active Living, to focus on the active living elements. About 4 or 5 years ago, we realized that we had gotten much more involved in the food system work and in schools work, and that active living didn't really sum up everything that we are working on. And so we had been known as PAL, Partners for Active Living, PAL, decided to keep that part of the brand and move on to Play, Advocate, Live Well, which captures really the work we do better. So what work do we do? I really don't like slide heavy or text heavy slides, and this is one, but it does kind of outline our approaches, the intentions, the strategies, and the positioning that we take to advance active living, promote healthy eating, and foster health equity. It involves our trails work, which of course I'll talk about a lot today, including the Saluda Grade Trail, which came up, which is that rail trail that will go from South Carolina into North Carolina, an amazing project. Also, you can see there's schools work, where we work with the schools to develop wellness committees, and then those wellness committees start to identify measures that they can take in the school to advance healthy eating and active living and foster health equity. And so that's part of our work there. We really just coordinate and help direct them, and then help them secure funding for whatever those activities happen to be. We're also working in the food system. I'll talk some more about that, including a food hub, which is an aggregator of food, where farmers and customers can come together, and we can really strengthen that local food system. We also work in a variety of active spaces. Franca, you were at a trail stewardship. We also do trail stewardship at a nearby park called Duncan Park. And some of you may have heard of it. There's a nationally historic baseball stadium there. Is the oldest minor league field in the country that's still used. It was built in 1926. Very interesting story there. So we do get involved in kind of other parks work as well. People ask where our money comes from, so we like to show this slide. Yep, that brings everybody to the front. Very interesting development. I will say that we have tremendous leadership. My boss, Laura Ringo, is a powerhouse in so many ways, and we have a very active board and a very committed board. We were funded heavily by the Mary Black Foundation at the start of our work, and they gradually encouraged us to get off their off their dole, although they still participate, but you can see that we are pretty diverse in where our funding comes from, and something that we've worked at hard to do. So a lot of corporate donations that leads the league, non-government grants, and those are grants both that we seek and that, well, all of them I guess we seek, but some of them are application processes, but also the for example, the Mary Black Foundation made a particular commitment to the trail development, $1 million over 5 years, as did the local hospital. So lots of government grants. We'll talk in a little bit about a United States Department of Transportation grant we received, pretty significant, $23.8 million. I would say that's pretty significant. That actually may not even fit into this because that had to go through a government entity. So that was received by the county. We do receive some of that money in various ways though. Individual donations, very important. There is a donate tab on our website, palspartanburg.org, and I appreciate everybody that participates in our work and all of the good stuff that we do. I will focus mostly on trails. And so I wanted to put some of this other great work that we're up to in the lead. The Spartanburg Healthy Schools Initiative, I mentioned that already. We work with schools to develop wellness committees, then help convene those wellness committees to identify those measures that they can take. And there are a variety of them. You can see this is a school garden, but there are other schools that have built trails around their property. There are playground enhancements that we've seen. There's a really interesting sort of move in playground development to have nature-based playgrounds. So it involves like tree stumps and the like, and water and kind of lots of big rocks, and so much less manicured playground area than maybe folks are used to, which it stimulates a whole other area of the brain, as we know. One of my favorite measures is also one of the simplest. It's the Rethink Your Drink campaign. So as a way to try to get kids to, and staff, this does apply to staff and families and the entire community, is to get them to drink more water. And there are some tried and true ways to do that. The number one is to make water available. And so we've worked with a few schools to do two things. One is buy water bottles for all the kids. Those water bottles stay at school. They don't go home. If a water bottle goes home, it's probably not going to come back, or at least risks not coming back. I would have forgotten it every other day or so. But also there's the school cafeteria folks collect those bottles at the end of every day, run them through the washing machines, and so they're clean every day overnight. So the water bottles were a part of it, but also how do we fill those bottles? Refillable, the bottle filling stations that you see in a lot of places now. We got funding for these schools to install water bottle fillers, and that has been a remarkably successful campaign. And again, it seems so simple and is so effective. I mentioned the food hub before, so we have really, there's been a lot of effort in Spartanburg County to work with the farmers to develop good agricultural practices. That's actually the process is GAP certifying, so that farmers can learn the things they need to do to make their produce suitable for store selling and restaurant selling and the like. And so there's been a lot of that, but we also realize that once we have these farmers producing these goods, we have to help them have an outlet for them. And so we've been hooking up stores, schools, hospitals. I think the last one over there, I can't see it, it says restaurants, with local farmers through this food hub. Now, right now, it's not a brick and mortar entity. It's just a concept that has been working. For example, again, one of my favorite sources or receivers of the food is the Milliken Guest House. The Milliken and Company world headquarters are in Spartanburg, and they have I've never been to it. That shows how fancy it is. The very fancy guest house. George Bush used to stay there when he came to visit Spartanburg and the like. So it's pretty high end, and they host a lot of you know, Milliken administrators and the like, executives coming through. But they're buying produce from local farmers through our food hub. So that has been, again, it is a continuing and very successful effort, which I just find fascinating, and I'm thrilled that my colleagues are able to do this. Here you can see some of the folks that are the benefactors, the farmers, and the restaurants. There's the Milliken Guest House right there, the front door, and the gentleman in the beard in the front. In the middle is our buddy Channing Hauser, who works for PAL and is the driver of the farmer training. He's a great guy and a recent Wofford graduate who has really just jumped in and taken hold of this program. We also, as part of that, include cooking classes. That's another piece of that has to happen. So we have chefs train trainers who can then do more classes. And so the idea is that you proliferate by training trainers and encouraging them to get out into their communities. So churches, various community groups. A couple other projects that we've been involved with, these would be those green space projects. The Rail Yard, which is a great project down on the Mary Black Foundation Rail Trail. It was an empty lot owned by Duke Energy and really not doing any good except overgrowing and being scary. And we worked with Duke and the city to develop a playground and park there. It has an NFL Play 60 playground, which is a pretty cool kind of like American Ninja Warrior sort of like activities that you can do. And one thing I do want to say, we do a lot of ribbon cuttings and that kind of thing. If you really want to bring out Spartanburg, have an NFL Play 60 and invite the Carolina Panthers, and you will have a massive crowd. So we've also worked on this bike park, which is pretty cool and attracting attention from all over the country. We host, and it's coming up, the Downtown Criterium. That is a bike race, goes around in a circle. It's a half-mile lap around downtown. When we started, we had no tents and about 50 people there watching, probably more cyclists than spectators. Now we're up to about 15,000 people watching. We have over 100 tailgating tents. It actually makes money for us, which is a big key, and is a much beloved event in Spartanburg. That's part of Spring Fling. So really a cool thing. I always say, you know, there are 15,000 people, 14,900 have no idea what's going on, except that they're going really fast. So there are pro men's and women's races at the end of a long day of racing by amateurs. And it's a big production and a lot of work. And most of the time we really love it. So if anybody is downtown, please come out. It is free. Let's talk about trails. Trail development in Spartanburg has been a long process, and one that was spurred by one of those trails in green. Let me say right now, the solid green are existing trails. The dashed green are trails that are under construction or in some form of getting there. The blue lines are lines on a map, and if you don't put it on the map, it won't get done. And so what we've done is taken originally about 11 miles of existing trails and connected them into a 55-mile system that goes mostly from east to west, but also down south to Croft State Park, and up north to Milliken Arboretum, and eventually to connect into this Saluda Grade Trail that I'll talk about. But that really spurred from the Mary Black Foundation Rail Trail, which currently is the most used recreation facility in Spartanburg County. We have infrared counters on our trails and at many of our parks, and that one sees the most use through the year. And that interest really caused people to say, we want more of this, and we want to be able to take trails from our front door. We want to be able to access recreation areas more easily than driving to the rail trail to go for a walk. And so through a variety of studies and meetings and planning sessions and vetting through public input, we developed this system here. We've added, again, it started with 11. We've added about 8.5. We have about another 6 right now that are about to fall in line. And that grant we received, which I'll talk about in a minute, is for 14.5 miles of trail. So that'll get us, and there are other projects still moving forwards too. So this is a lot of work, and we're very excited about it. So let's see. Benefits of trails, why do we do this? Why are you all participating in our federal grant? Thank you. I usually start with that too. Thank you for helping fund our project. Why are they giving us $24 million to do this? We know that trails are improve quality of life and place. They improve health. Those are easy ones, giving us more places to play. But what we've really seen coming is how much these have grown our local economy, how much the trails give us opportunities to highlight our history, and how much they're becoming transportation options by connecting places people want to go. And getting more and more folks like walking and biking in safe places. We've been part of, I think we're up to over 50 conversations with developers who either want to connect to the trails, want to know where the trails are going, want to participate in the trail development. There are any number of projects going on around Spartanburg County, and you just have to drive around and you can see how much growth there is here, almost all of it residential, and how much these people are after trails. We recently had, and I'll skip ahead a little bit too, for the Saluda Grade Trail. You may have heard of the Saluda Grade. It's the steepest train line in the continental US. I believe that's correct. They called it, that's the Saluda Grade. It goes up what is often known as the Blue Wall. And so it's a well-known trail to train folks, but it's about to become a well-known trail to cyclists and trail users. But the Saluda Grade has recently been announced that we have come to an agreement to make the purchase. We have not purchased it yet, but we have an agreement with Norfolk Southern to purchase it, which begins a whole other process. But since then, a bicycle company, Time Bicycles, they're actually a French company. They have their US headquarters in Arkansas. They're moving them to Spartanburg, and they're moving them particularly to an existing factory, an existing building, 140,000 square feet, that backs up to the rail line that is the Saluda Grade. And their purpose is to attach to the trail. So right there is that evidence, if we needed any more, of the economic value of trails and how they spur that development. The activity along our trails has been just remarkable since they go down. Talk about a couple of sections. This is, you can see now it's the same map. There's a red circle in the middle. That is downtown Spartanburg. And we recently completed the first fully curb protected bike lane in South Carolina. We have done this before to be #1 in South Carolina or in the Southeast. We like that. But this protected lane is really pretty masterful. Now, I know it's showing people walking in it. That was posed for the pictures, but we do, it is kind of multi-purpose. That is a very wide sidewalk that you see off to the left side there. You see too that this is a two-way lane. That is something that we're going for with our whole system. It helps add space to create that safety, and also replicates the feel of the rail trail, which everybody loves so much. Let's see. Oh, these are all the developments downtown that are that have come up and have either been involved with the trails, want to be involved with the trails, or have placed themselves there because of the trails. Lots of activity in our downtown. This number one over here is an apartment building that is just about complete. I'm not even going to try to guess, and because I'm covered up too, I can't quite see all the names there. All of these various new developments that, again, are either trail oriented, involved with the trails, or want to be involved with the trails, but you can see how we try to tie those together. This is another segment over along the Fair Forest Creek. So that downtown was one very particular context. This is a very different context. Franca, you've been on this trail. It is, let's see. Yep, there it is down there. It's circled in yellow, trail down behind Willie Taco, and this is it. So an area that had previously not been accessible to the public at all is now open. There's and I hope I have a picture. I don't. There's a dam. You can see it over there underneath the pictures. The White's Mill Dam is a historic piece from the late 1700s in Spartanburg County. I don't think the dam itself, I think it's been rebuilt so many times that it can't be, it's not like historically accurate, but it is a historic placement of it. There were grist mills all up and down the Lawson's Fork Creek in the 1790s, and that was one of them. It's now a residential subdivision, but that was really limited to just the folks who lived there, who had access to it. And now we're building a trail back there. I should say that we build these through easements. And so we work with the property owners to allow for a 20-foot easement for a 10-foot trail. It allows the city or county to own that trail, maintain that trail, and for us to use it. That is also a 100-foot bridge that will be placed across the Lawson's Fork, again, making that very crucial connection. That's going to be an exciting thing to see happen, I have to say. Here's another piece that we just recently completed. This is in the Beaumont Mill Village. This is underneath the Norfolk Southern Railroad tracks. That was a huge process to work with Norfolk Southern. I will say that they are not easy, and I think that part of their being not easy is to discourage communities from continuing to ask for things. It was a very expensive process, and I think they would have rather we just go away, but I am being paid to call them every 2 weeks. So we got it and made it happen. A really, really neat spot under a very dramatic bridge. And here's the Beaumont tie-in. You can see coming up from the railroad tracks across the creek and then climbing up a steep hill. Really a pretty remarkable facility there, tying two historic mill villages together. We are bound in Spartanburg by mill villages, and so this one's a cool one with the Drayton Mills and the Beaumont Mills being tied together. This is another segment we're working on downtown, and this is behind the Marriott Hotel. Again, you can see this is just the plan. We're working on it, but you can see again, two-way curb protected lane. That green paint is in areas that are particular conflict zones. And so that's part of that development, trying to keep them safe. Our RAISE grant. So this is RAISE stands for Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. It's a program that was started, a Department of Transportation program under the Obama administration. It was called Tiger at the time, and I don't remember what that stood for. Under the Trump administration, it changed names and changed some focus as the BUILD grant, that was better utilizing investment to leverage development. And then under the Biden administration, it changed to Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. One of the most interesting things about this process for me, we applied twice. We got rejected first. We kind of expected to, but we applied under the Trump administration program. And to see the change in focus of the two, the change in priorities of the two, and to really try to mold that grant then to suit that initiative was a very interesting process. And I'll say we really tried to, we thought we had great applications for both of them, but we knew the second one was a real winner. I'll also say that we lucked into a few things to get this grant. We qualified as a rural community under the 2010 census. We will not qualify as a rural community under the 2020 census. That requires if we were an urban community or not rural, we would have to have a significant match to our grant request, which we did not have to have as a rural community. We also benefited from the change in focus. Under the Trump administration, I think it was 5 or 6% of the projects that were awarded were bicycle and pedestrian oriented. Under the Biden administration, it was 20% were pedestrian and bicycle oriented. So we benefited from that. Again, the change in priorities and change in focus. But the funding will cover that trail there in orange, mostly along the Fair Forest Creek, also going into downtown, out to the airport, and then beyond. I think I get a chance to talk a little bit more about, so here are some of the things that we're doing. This is a bridge over Southport Road on the airport property. I will say that the FAA is a Department of Transportation agency, but they are demanding in how we work with them, as you can imagine, as they protect the safety of their facilities too, all around. So it's been interesting to work with them to develop this plan. I guess this is our website, palspartanburg.org, where you can find more information about the trails. So that's what I did. You click on the play tab to the Daniel Morgan Trail System, and then scroll down a little bit and you'll get these descriptions of trails. One other focus, Duncan Park has been, I mentioned that already, historic 100-acre park that will be part of this trail system. And I know I'm trying to hustle through that so I can take any questions and don't take too much of your time. We work with the community to try to determine what are the things that would most appeal to you to work here, what's to come here, what's missing, what kinds of things do you do, where are your interests and what should we do here? So we are in the process of raising money. Our first effort will be to open the Duncan Park Lake, which has not been open since the 1950s. And I think you, with a sense of history, can understand some of the motivations for that, to close off the lake from any kind of non-motorized boating and also fishing. So that we will open up and develop some facilities that will help kind of keep track of that. So there could be kayak rentals that are operated by the city parks. There will be a bridge that will allow for pier fishing and some improved trails in there for walking. Funding for the Daniel Morgan Trail System, which we call the DAN. If you're a Spartanburger, you know we're on first names now. The Thomas Hanna YMCA is the Tom, the George Dean Johnson School of Business is the George, and the Daniel Morgan Trail System is the Dan. We get on these streaks, don't we? $14 million brought in to date. That obviously does not include that 23.8 million that I should say that was in partnership with the county of Spartanburg. It was only government entities can apply for that funding. Here's the Saluda Grade Trail. I think I've mentioned enough about that to probably fill a bucket. But that is an amazing opportunity. 31 miles of trail, half of it in North Carolina, half of it in South Carolina. Again, with this historic piece of rail history involved. Really going to be something that drives the entire region. There is interest, and we're working on tying the Dan to the Slough to Grade, and then in North Carolina they're working on tying together some trails which could get us all the way to Brevard from Spartanburg. So really kind of a spectacular opportunity that's going to involve a lot of work and a lot of challenges, but it's well worth it. There's the line in orange. The acquisition process is long, so we do have a letter of intent and a purchase agreement. From that goes into a whole lot of other elements of kind of the process of turning over a rail line, which has been rail line for 150 years. How long? Probably longer than that. And all of the things that kind of go along with that. One of the interesting parts is this rail banking process that I'll mention a little bit. So the rail lines are generally easements also, and it is in the easement, the original easement from whenever it was signed, that if the railroad abandons the property, then the easements go back to the property owner. Well, that messes up a whole lot of rail trails. And so they've created this rail banking process. So Norfolk Southern won't actually completely abandon the line. They maintain their interest in the line. They could come and take it back if there were a need to do so. But they allow us to build a trail on it and to use that trail and maintain that trail. So that's been an interesting change that came out of a Supreme Court case about 15 years ago that really determined that, yes, these properties go back to the property owners. And I don't need to keep doing those because I moved them already. And that's it. There we go. Join us. Franca has done it. Julia, were you there too? Did I hear? Maybe there were three involved.
I think Uliana was there. Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah.
But it looks like a great trail system to come visit. So what an awesome group of trails for sure.
Excellent. Thank you. We think so. And we're very excited about it. People are, I mean, you can see how many folks come out to these trail stewardship events. I mean, I think, Franca, when you were there were probably 40 or 50 people there. And a lot of it is our way to kind of show people these trails, but also our way to develop that ownership and develop that kind of, you know, you can walk down that trail and say, I cleaned this up. And we focus, I'll say, on invasive plant species. That is really we work with another nonprofit called the Trees Coalition. And that's our main focus, is to save the trees. We clean ivy off of trees it kills the ivy up in it and helps protect it. We go after kudzu, we go after privet, we go after all kinds of stuff. There is always a trash picking element, because there always is trash. And so it really is a great system. I think there are 7 days through the year that we get together. We skip July and August for obvious reasons if you're in South Carolina. And we try to keep them fun. Thank you, Franca. And we keep them, you know, not too long. They're 2 hours from 9 to 11. And it's about enough time to really kind of wear yourself out. So without wearing yourself out so much that you'll never come again. We have lots of repeats.
Well, Ned, I just have to say, obviously your passion is amazing and your commitment, but a common thread that I'm hearing through all of this is just your understanding of the complexities of getting the whole array of partners at all levels to actually come together and do something and then see those results on the ground. I'm a retired federal employee, so I understand maybe better than some just what a nightmare that can be. but it seems like you guys have it in your back pocket, and I'm just blown away. I would like to open it up for just a few questions if we have a couple minutes. Anybody have any questions for Ned? Yes, John?
Ned, I worked in the natural gas industry for over 30 years, including West Virginia, where I went to college.
Nice.
Company I headed up in Vermont, we were happy to work with trails programs because, and depending where it was, we put in a new line, and how it worked for the gas company is it gave us access with vehicles to get to service our lines when need be. Have you had any activity at all with Piedmont?
We have a little bit with Piedmont, mostly with Duke.
Okay.
And Duke Energy owns Piedmont Natural Gas now. So the utility lines have been a very interesting kind of feature of this. And like, Piedmont Natural Gas, very receptive to having trails.
Good.
Duke Energy, very receptive to having trails. We're just now working with the gas pipelines, like the I guess petroleum pipeline folks. We have pipelines here, and we're just now getting to a situation where we'll have to cross them, and they are very receptive. They have their rules, but John, I think they use the same thing. One of the gas pipeline guys said, we love bicycles, we love pedestrians. So, that it is, and to your point, Candace, yes, it sounds like we know it all. But what we have is a great group of people who we can go to and really pull expertise from. And so, that has been one of the great parts of this project, I think, is that, I mean, in a way, I just put myself at their mercy. I call the gas pipeline people and I say, we want to build trail. And I've read some things about your gas pipeline that, you require. Can we talk about how we go about this? And so they're, using their expertise to help us is great. We try to pull folks in early. So just to go back to it, Duke Energy, since I started doing this, has made it easier to put trails in their easements. They have fewer rules. And that I was told by one of the local guys that was the local guys who got together and said, they're the ones who manage the asset. And they said, listen, trails are great through here. Can we make it easier for people to put in trails? And the upper management said, yes. And they developed that process. And so, that's kind of a neat piece of all of that. We also have and I thought this was one of the big victories in our beginning work. There's a memorandum of understanding between the city of Spartanburg, Spartanburg County, and Spartanburg Water about using their easements. So what the agreement says is that if we build in Spartanburg Water easement, and we are able to, we're allowed to, and they go in and tear up the trail while repairing pipe, they're not responsible for also repairing the trail. So that puts the county or the city on the hook for repairing the trail. If the trail is outside of their easement, so even just parallel to their easement, and they tear up the trail as part of their work, they do have to repair the trail. So what that does is create this great structure for the sustainability of these trails that will go well beyond me and the CEO of Spartanburg Water who signed that original agreement. That I think was something that I'll say that the city and county and Spartanburg Water don't always agree that easily. And that one was pretty easy and a good sign of the community effort that's involved with this.
I think anybody who enjoys trails knows that getting them established is a wonderful thing, and maintaining them and keeping them safe and secure and usable is the long-term job. So it sounds like you're on your way to figuring all that out. Any other questions? We're a little bit over, but gosh, I hate to cut off this conversation. This is amazing.
I'd just like to again kind of tell you I am blown away at what you presented. Shirley and I grew up in Los Angeles. We lived in South Florida for the last 40 plus years. We've only been here a couple of years. And we came here to retire. And I thought, oh, well, South Carolina is going to not be as mature as what we've experienced, but that's okay. You guys, I mean, I would never have guessed that Spartanburg would be on top of this. I'm a retired architect. I got everything you said because I've dealt with it from a technical standpoint all these years. And you guys are amazing. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you. I'll say it has been a great learning process. I also say that I have absolutely no real qualifications for what I do, other than that I guess I'm a nice guy, and we talk to people and we listen to people and we work with them and we bring to them. I think that's been one of our big efforts as an organization, is that, okay, what can we do for you to help move your thing forward? And so it very much a community effort here that I think has been corralled in large part by PAL and by our credibility. I again throw my boss Laura Ringo out there. We have a really great team, and I think we really focus on doing things, and the credit will come where the credit comes.
Well, I can just say a quick comment. Oh, sorry.
Please.
I was just gonna say a quick comment. Those credits will continue to come, Ned, because a lot of people are enjoying those trails. Besides the time when I've been, with you and working on the trails, I've been enjoying walking and on those outdoors area, and they are just beautiful. And the idea that most of the trails go around the water and the river system that we have is just make the landscaping so beautiful and so pleasant to walk around. And that's those compliments and those credits will keep coming.
Thank you. Thanks.
Wonderful, wonderful program. And Robert, I see that you joined us right at the end. I hope you didn't get time zones confused, but if you did, we will have a recording of this available. I'll be glad to send you a link.
Yeah, I did kind of get the time confused.
Sorry about that. But we have started recording the meeting, so you'll be able to enjoy it. But it's good to see you. I do want to share. I do want to share something, Ned. What we do is for each speaker, we, if I can get it up here, slideshow from the beginning, and then so what we do is for each of our speakers, and this is Lene's favorite line. She says, "We can't really stand up and offer you a mug because here we are in 2D. So what we do instead, we have a network of little free libraries all over the upstate that our members contribute to. And so after each program, we select a book that we think might be enjoyed by the speaker. So this one was selected for you, donated to one of our little free libraries in recognition of and with thanks to you, Ned Barrett, for sharing your love of the outdoors and encouraging us to improve our health and wellness." And I do want to say one phrase that you mentioned early on in your presentation that will stick with me, and I'd love to explore with you further: health equity. And I love, we didn't get into it much, but how you engage with your communities to make all of this available for everybody is something that we can all learn from. So with that, we're going to wrap up our meeting.